All right, before we get into today's story, let me quickly introduce myself for anyone new here. My name's Paula, and on this channel, I talk about crypto from a macro and market structure point of view. Not hype, not wild price predictions, and not chasing every headline, but what's actually happening behind the scenes, how the system works, and where the real risks and opportunities are long term. Because if you've been in crypto for any length of time, you already know this. Most big mistakes don't come from missing a trade, they come from misunderstanding risk. And today's story is a perfect example of that. At first glance, this looks like just another crypto headline, something you could scroll past without much thought. But when you zoom out, it actually exposes one of the most uncomfortable truths about crypto right now. And it's not about price, it's not about regulation, it's not even about the blockchain. It's about trust. Specifically, it's about a Coinbase security incident, a recent arrest in India, and what this tells us about how exchanges really get compromised in 2025. Because this wasn't a genius hacker breaking encryption. This was something far more human. Back in May 2025, Coinbase disclosed that it had suffered a cyber incident where criminals accessed customer data and then attempted to extort the company for $20 million, threatening to release that data publicly. Coinbase said they refused to pay. Now that alone is serious, but the detail that really matters, and the one a lot of people missed, is how this data was accessed. Coinbase explained that this wasn't someone hacking their core systems. Instead, it involved support staff being bribed or recruited, giving attackers access to internal customer support tools. And that detail changes everything, because it tells us that one of the biggest risks in crypto today isn't the blockchain or even the exchange infrastructure. It's the human layer. Coinbase said that no passwords, private keys, or two-factor authentication codes were exposed, which is important, but sensitive customer information was accessed. And that's enough to do real damage, because if someone has personal data, they don't need to log into your account directly. They can impersonate you, they can attempt SIM swaps, they can send extremely convincing phishing emails, they can call you and sound completely legitimate. Coinbase also estimates that the total cost of reimbursements and remediation could land somewhere between $180 and $400 million, which gives you a sense of the scale of this incident. At the time, the story faded fairly quickly, but it didn't end there. Fast forward to December 2025, and we get an update that brings this back into focus. Coinbase's CEO publicly thanked police in Hyderabad, India, after a former customer support agent was arrested in connection with the breach. And this matters for a few reasons. First, it tells us this wasn't a one-off mistake or a single bad actor. This was part of a broader, organised effort, one that took months of investigation across borders. Second, it confirms what security professionals have been warning about for years. Criminals are increasingly targeting outsourced support operations, because if you can compromise the right people, you don't need to hack the system. You just walk through the door. And this isn't a Coinbase-only problem. It's an industry-wide issue. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When people hear the phrase exchange hack, they imagine wallets being drained or some highly technical exploit, but a huge amount of modern crypto crime doesn't look like that at all. It looks like social engineering. It looks like phishing. It looks like impersonation. It looks like insider access abuse, because humans are predictable under pressure. If you tell someone their account is compromised and create urgency, people make mistakes. And that's exactly why this works. Even if you have strong passwords, even if you use two-factor authentication, even if the exchange infrastructure is solid, if the human layer breaks down, risk still exists. Which brings us to the bigger question. What does this mean for exchange security in general? Because this story isn't really about Coinbase. It's about how people should think about risk in crypto going into 2026. The first thing to understand is this. Security is not a single feature. It's a system. At the exchange level, real security comes down to things most users never see: who can access customer data, how that access is monitored, whether actions are logged and flagged for unusual behaviour, how quickly an account can be frozen if something looks wrong. After this incident, Coinbase said they increased investment in insider threat detection and internal controls. And that's exactly what you want to see, because insider risk can't be eliminated. It can only be managed. Now, exchanges themselves aren't the enemy. If you're actively trading, exchanges are essential tools, and the key is using the right one intentionally. A lot of you ask what exchange I personally use, and for trading, I use Blowfin. The reason is simple. Blowfin is built around execution and risk controls, not gimmicks. They've got deep liquidity, fast order matching, and proper tools for managing positions, which really matters when markets are volatile and leverage is involved. They also support the channel and the community. If you sign up through my link, you get access to community bonuses and deposit bonuses that you don't get elsewhere. And over time, that genuinely makes a difference to fees and overall trading costs. So if you want to trade on the same exchange I use, I'll leave my Blowfin link in the description. And if you want to know the exact strategies we use to make money in both the bull market and the bear market, we've made a completely free course for you. The link is in the description below. Now here's the important distinction. Exchanges are great for trading, but they are not where I keep long-term holdings. And this is where a lot of people quietly take on unnecessary risk. If you're holding assets long-term, not trading them day to day, leaving them on exchanges exposes you to risks you don't need. That's why for long-term storage, I use cold storage. And this is where Tangem comes in. One of the reasons I like Tangem is because it removes a lot of the common mistakes people make with hardware wallets. There's no seed phrase written on paper. The private keys are generated and stored securely inside the chip itself, and access is controlled through the card. That matters because a huge number of crypto losses don't come from hacks. They come from people mismanaging seed phrases. Tangem also makes cold storage genuinely usable. It works with your phone, it's quick when you need to transact, and you're not constantly plugging devices into laptops or relying on third-party software. So for long-term holdings, the assets you're not actively trading, it's a simple way to reduce exchange risk without making crypto harder to use. Tangem have got a winter sale on at the moment, and if you use the link in my description, you get another 10% off. But whichever wallet you choose, the real takeaway is this. If your crypto isn't on an exchange, it can't be affected by exchange-side incidents like the one we're talking about today. So when you see headlines like former Coinbase agent arrested in India, don't just scroll past them. They're a signal. Crypto isn't just about battling market cycles anymore. It's battling sophisticated fraud networks, insider recruitment, and human layer attacks. And strangely enough, that's actually bullish long term, because the more these incidents are investigated, prosecuted, and openly discussed, the more pressure there is on exchanges to harden systems properly. Not for PR, but because the market is maturing. So if you're still here, still learning, still navigating all the noise, you're already ahead of most people. Just make sure your security matches your conviction. Because in crypto, your biggest edge isn't predicting the next candle. It's staying in the game long enough to benefit from the cycle. If this video helped you think a bit differently about risk in crypto, make sure you're subscribed. I post regularly about market structure, macro moves, and the stuff that actually matters long term. Not hype, not noise. If you want to trade on the same exchange I use, I'll leave the Blowfin link in the description, along with the community bonuses. And if you're holding crypto for the long term, have a look at cold storage options like Tangem, because reducing risk is just as important as finding opportunity. As always, none of this is financial advice. It's just how I personally approach the market. Thank you for watching. Take care of your security, and I'll see you in the next one.